Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is Breathe at Home. And this is going to be a reflection on it's inspired by Glennon Doyle's new book Untamed, and it's one on beliefs, but she calls it memos. So it's a reflection on kind of the memos that we have in our experience that guide our lives that we may or may not realize we are being guided by, if that makes any sense. So I want you to grab a pen and paper if you don't already have it. Fold it as hot dog, hamburger, so that there's 4 quadrants to write in, or draw a crisscross so that you have 4 spaces to write in. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I want you to hone in on an area of your life, which is going to be the topic for this reflective exercise. Where do you feel like you have to get it right? And I want you to write that at the top, not that question. I want you to write where in your life you feel like you have to get it right at the top of the page. Where do you feel like you have to do it right or do it a certain way, or that if you don't do it that way, you're not going to be enough? Where's that area in your life where you really feel like you got to get it right or else? Go ahead and write that down. Cool. And just a reminder that this is going to be about a 10 to 15 minute reflection. And if at any point in time you need to pause the video to give yourself more time to reflect, by all means, please listen to yourself. You are the wisdom keeper of your life, so you know what's best for you. In the first quadrant, taking the topic where you feel like you got to get it right at all costs, I want you to write down what is the memo that you have about this topic that told you that it had to be this way. So what is that memo? It might be a rule or the reality that you have created for yourself to live in, or a belief. What's the memo that you have that's telling you, and what is it telling you about how you need to get this right? So go ahead and just write down that memo. What's the memo that exists that really guides you in living out the reality that you are in, that makes you feel like you got to get it right? And I invite you to recognize any judgment that might be coming up and just acknowledge it as judgment. And maybe put a hand on your heart and say, it's okay. This is a time to be able to observe and to gather new information, not a time to berate or criticize ourselves for feeling this way or having this memo. It is totally okay, and we are just merely shining a light on some new information so that we can do it differently if we want. And if we don't want to, we don't have to. What is the memo that you got about this topic? All right, if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Otherwise, let's move on to the second quadrant. And I want you to write down how this memo, as it stands, is serving you today and in your life. How is this memo that you are currently living into serving you, working? How is it working? There's a reason that you haven't shifted to any different memos. So, what is it about this memo that serves you? What does it give you? What does it allow? All right, now let's move on to the third quadrant. And I want you to write in this space how this memo is no longer serving you. How is it holding you back? In what ways is it not working anymore? What is this memo stopping you from experiencing and being? How is this memo no longer serving you? How is this memo holding you back? Getting in the way of what you actually want to experience and who you actually want to be. I invite you to continue to breathe into your heart space as you allow the insights to arise within you and to flow out onto the page. And then let's move on to the fourth quadrant. What is your new memo going to be? If you could rip that memo off the wall, crumple it up, and chuck it, what would you replace that memo with? What's your new memo? And if it isn't words and it's a drawing or it's a letter to yourself or whatever feels true for how that is expressed, allow that to come to fruition. What is that new memo? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What permission and new set of rules do you want to live by? What new belief do you want to guide your experience in this arena? What's a new memo that you can read and feel really good about? Like, yeah, this is how I want to do this. This is how it feels like it should be. How I want to show up. Who I get to be. How I get to experience this. And then I invite you, wherever you've landed, to take a moment to allow yourself to breathe that new memo in and check in with how it feels in your body. See how your body, like, is it jiving with it, or is it maybe need a little bit of a tweak? And I invite you for the next week to experiment with this new memo and see how it actually plays out in real life. And have permission to tweak it or noodle it a little bit if you need to. Have fun with it. You can always change it. And sometimes it's important to give yourself some space to experience the new memo so that you can gain some information about it. And when you've gotten to that point, I invite you to make a ritual around this new memo. Maybe you actually do put it on a Post-it note or write it on a mirror or paint and draw or create something that embodies it. Find your own unique creative expression that allows this new memo to really come to life through you so that it lands, so that it feels like yours, so that you can have some ceremony around it as you start experimenting living into it. So thank you so much for doing this new memo reflection with me and for allowing me to guide you as you courageously create the life that you want. I am Rachel, and this is Breathe at Home.